And a special one at that because we have voice memos galore.
It's exactly my favorite type of mailbag episodes. We get to actually hear the voices of Locked On Rays listeners. So let's get started right now.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano.
And we are the host of the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your very first listen every day. Be sure you check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Locked On Rays, as well as all the other traditional podcast platforms that we are on. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Rays, and you can email us, preferably voice memos, if that is your want, lockedonrays@gmail.com. And as we alluded to, we have 3 voice memo mailbags to get to on this episode. This harkens back to the challenge that we put forth to our listenership out there is, hey, if you want to join the 2023 Locked On Rays Fantasy Baseball League, you got to do 2 things. You got to screenshot the fact that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, and you got to send us a voice memo with a mailbag question embedded within that voice memo. You couldn't just, make fart sounds or something like that. You actually had to put forth a competent, cogent question and then email that to us, and boom, you get an invite to the Locked On Rays Fantasy Baseball League.
Exactly. And the people that are in the fantasy league all paid attention and all followed the rules, which is very nice. And so, yeah, let's get started with these voice memos.
Yeah, and we've got much more than 3 that we'll be getting to over the next several weeks, and we're trying to more or less go in the order that we received these voice memos. So without further ado, this first question from MAILBAG.
Hey guys, this is MAILBAG in Odessa, Florida. A question for you. Who finishes with a higher WAR for the Rays this season? Randy Arozarena, Yandy Diaz, or Brandon Lowe? I thought of including Wander Franco in this question, but I guess this is a hot take. I think he's going to finish top 5 in the AL batting title this season, en route to his first ever All-Star appearance. So he's out of the question. So again, who finishes with a higher WAR this season for the Rays? Randy Arozarena, Yandy Diaz, or Brandon Lowe? As always, thanks for the podcast.
Great question there from Michael, and I also love the fact that he shouted out where he's from, Odessa, Florida. Beautiful, beautiful area that hasn't been overrun by development as far as I know. So yeah, some great golf courses out there as well too. So
fun geography, Western Florida tidbits brought to you by Kevin Weiss.
Hey, if you want to know about zoning issues and land development codes, just hit me up. Send a voice memo.
Send him a DM Kevin on that. First of all, Michael, I love the fact that you kind of sneaked in a hot take there, a bold prediction. Love those. Top 5 in the batting title. I
don't disagree with that, honestly. Well, assuming he stays healthy, that's the big question.
We're putting everybody healthy on it. It is as of today, March 12th, but it's going to be March 15th when this comes out. We're positive people now.
Yeah,
it's a new day. Everybody's healthy. Yes.
No, I mean any time that Wander bats below 310 in a season, I will probably, quite frankly, be disappointed. Like, that's how high of expectations I have. I fully expect him, again, if he posts, 140, 145 games, that he's going to accumulate at least 5.5 WAR, at least.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so I know that people hate batting average, but again, I've never seen a 200 batting average lifetime guy go to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So
interestingly, Tristan Peters, who we had on Friday's show, an up-and-coming prospect within the Rays organization, said that's the stat that he really focuses and hones in on is batting average. He wants to get that upped. So
yeah, By the way, if you guys have not checked that out, I missed that the opportunity to be there in that interview. It was really good, man. You did a great job, and I think everybody else that listened to it really had a good time.
Thank
really.
you. We had some technical issues, but Tristan was a trooper and worked with us, so we got that situated. And shout out to his agent for reaching out to us. Hey, if you're an agent out there that represents a Rays player or prospect, hit us up. We'd love to have your representation on our show. So
yeah, no, that's great. I love how they've been proactive and contacting us. That means that they like it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Going back to Michael's mailbag, Randy Arozarena, Brandon Lowe, or Yandy Diaz, who finishes with the career WAR?
Higher WAR right?
WAR of
2023.
2023. I will say that the first one to the third one will be separated by 1 WAR. Okay? I will give you that. The middle guy will be right in the middle. So I think it's going to be looking like Randy Arozarena being the last at around 3 WAR, Yandy Diaz around 3.5, and Brandon Lowe at 4 WAR. That's how I have my podium. Randy Arozarena, we know he can be a little bit too wild, making outs while running the bases, which I love aggressive Randy more than passive Randy. Mm-hmm. So I'll take it all the time. But I'm just saying how WAR operates, it will affect him negatively. I mean, you go look at FanGraphs in 2022 and you see how much of a hit he took by the base running mistakes. And also, defensively speaking, I think, the metrics are not falling in love with Randy's defense. And I know he's been a Gold Glove nominated outfielder, but that's my take. I think that he's going to
do they fall in love with Yandy's or Brandon Lowe's defense either?
There you go. So that's the point. I don't think if you look at the career high of both Brandon Lowe and Yandy Diaz, that's why I put him that way. Brandon Lowe at his peak has been the best of the 3.
Yes. So
I have to go with him. Again, a more negative Ulises would, say, I'm really worried about the back. And I am. Mm-hmm. And I think every Rays fan should. I know he looks healthy, and that's awesome. But that's always going to be in the back of your mind. How could it not? The back is a huge muscle, people. Like, if you have an issue with your back, that's not just going away. Like, you still need to rehab it. You still need to work on it constantly so that it doesn't pop up. So, yes, it is a worry. However, WAR does love bombs. And I don't think that a guy who can potentially give you a 900 OPS is going to be defeated by a guy that gives you a 400 on base. Yeah, he can give you 800 OPS, ultimately Yandy, but Brandon Lowe has the punch that will help get that WAR up.
And you would think maybe with the limited shift defensively that Brandon Lowe can pull some more ground balls or some low liners and get more base hits that way. It's funny that you have Randy ranking last for WAR in 2023. He's actually my top choice for this upcoming year for some of the reasons that you mentioned. Brandon Lowe, the back, that still concerns me. How long will it take him to be really 2021 Brandon Lowe? Look, if we're just talking all things being equal and Randy, Yandy, Brandon, they all play 150 games in 2023, then I would absolutely go with Brandon Lowe. He's the only guy out of this bunch who can put together a 5-4 season, I think. But that's where I have to kind of take everything into consideration because Yandy also, like Brandon Lowe, has an injury history. I mean, I know that he got hit in the wrist, hand area. I don't think that's as big of an issue, but he has been dealing with a hip flexor throughout spring training. And I just am worried about him being able to post for 100, 145 games again this year. When I look at Randy, yeah, he's reckless on the base pass. The defense probably isn't as good as what people think, but I'm also looking at a guy who played 153 and 141 games the last 2 seasons respectively and became the first player in Rays history to have a 20, 30, 40 year in terms of home runs, doubles, and stolen bases. He just got that that first big paycheck with qualifying for Super 2 status. So I think he can actually settle in a little bit, maybe have a little less pressure and be even more motivated to have a monster season where he can get paid even more going forward. And we read the article. We saw it that he's actually going to be paying attention to scouting reports. He's actually going to be focusing on how pitchers are attacking him and what they're using to attack him, and maybe be more mindful and cerebral about not just at the plate, but the entire game. And I would think and hope that also translates to his aggressive base running tactics in terms of being caught stealing or non-stealing outs, which are just out of control and unbelievable. And I would think if I'm the Rays that, okay, maybe during the season, it's hard to have that heart-to-heart talk, but this offseason, you really had to clarify that and get with him on that of, okay, we can't allow what you did last season to happen this season. And the larger bases, who knows? Maybe he's safer on a couple of those. So I am going to go with.
Let me just. If you didn't have that conversation with Randy, I think that's just negligence, honestly.
Okay.
You have to talk about it. Like, that was a blatant error upon blatant error throughout the whole season. Again, right. I prefer aggressive Randy than non-aggressive Randy. Having said that, look at the numbers, people. It really did hamper not only his stats, but the team stats. So I really do hope that you're right. And the team kind of, hey, let's talk about this, how you can improve. And maybe that was a conversation that led to him being a little bit more open about, hey, let me look at the scouting reports, or maybe him being more open to the scouting reports led the Rays to have that conversation. Oh, and by the way, about the running, I really hope so. But can you give me the podium that you have?
Yeah, I really just answered it in terms of who would be tops, but I'll go Randy, Yandy, and then B. Lau. But let me put a little twist on it. I'll say this: whoever plays the most games out of these three will have the highest career WAR, or not career WAR, but WAR for 2023.
I mean, I think that's I would think that's a.
And that's why I'm going with. That's why I'm more or less going with Randy, because
he's going to
play nearly 300 games the last two seasons.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. So we basically have Yandy in the middle, and then we're flip-flopping first and third. And we want to hear from you guys. So on YouTube, besides hitting that subscribe button and besides hitting that like button so that more people can reach this content, make sure to hit the comment section and give us your podium. Who do you think is going to have the highest WAR in 2023 between Yandy, Randy, and Brandon Lowe?
Yeah, no, great question from Michael. And we have more to get to, but first we have to tell you about FanDuel. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel. It is America's #1 sports book. New customers get a no-sweat first bet for up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. So just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet for up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon, LOCKEDON, to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, getting back into it, this next question from Andy Torres.
So as a lifelong Rays fan, I've pretty conditioned to understanding that we're going to trade all our players and that, and we're going to focus on pitching. So I'm just curious as to what do you guys think our rotation is going to look like in 2025, 2026? Who we're going to trade? What returns do you think we can expect to get back? Like, I just want to kind of look further down that trade tree, specifically of our rotation, and see what kind of moves we can make or possibly want to see us make to help us get over the hump and, actually win a World Series. So yeah, like, for example, right, Glasnow's definitely gone, I think. McClanahan's gone. He's not accepted any sort of extension offer that we've given him, even though we've traded, even though we've extended, like, Springs. I feel like he might still get traded. Do we keep Rasmussen, right? We haven't extended him. I don't know. I'm just curious to see who do you guys think stays and goes, and what can we get back for them, you know, and yeah, and maybe I don't know, maybe do the same thing with some of our lineups, like kind of in complementary, because I know we're definitely a team that focuses on their pitching, so they're kind of our heart there. So yeah, I hope that's not too convoluted, but that's kind of my main question. Just how does our rotation look, and what do you guys think we can get out of that to set us up for success in the future?
All right, Ulises, a lot of questions and inquiries there from Andy. I don't know if we can answer every single one of those topics within the next 6 or 7 minutes, but
wait, before
yeah.
I want to get your take on Andy's mailbag big picture theme. Is Andy a realist, or is he a negative person? What do we think here?
I don't think he's negative. I think he's probably more of a realist in terms of what the Rays have done historically. I wouldn't necessarily say that Shane McClanahan wouldn't be on the team. Let's remember, I mean, last I checked is he's going to be arbitration eligible in 2024 and wouldn't be a free agent until 2028. Now, some of those other guys, I think he is correct about. I mean, if we're just going to look forward to, man, it's almost impossible to project 2026 and 2027. But if we focus on 2025, for example, I would think there's a spot for Taj Bradley. I would think there's a spot for Shane Baz. I would think there's a spot for Luis Patino, hopefully, if he develops as such. Mason Montgomery as well. And Shane McClanahan, I think, too. After that, it's kind of a tough to tell between Springs, Eflin, Rasmussen, etc.
I see it a little bit different than you. Obviously, we agree that Tyler Glasnow is not going to be with the team in 2025. Duh.
Yeah.
So we both agree on that. However, I gotta side with Andy here. I don't think in 2025 Shane McClanahan is going to be a Ray, because he's so good, people. Because they want to get he's really good. Shane McClanahan is a stud. If he does the same thing that he did last year, then I am welcome. We can have that ace discussion that we had last year. You know, what does it take to be an ace in MLB? And not everybody can be an ace, and not every number one starter is an ace, people. Okay?
Yeah.
You need longevity. You need a track record. And if he puts another season like that, Shane, then he becomes, I think, an ace in MLB. Now, aces in MLB are not cheap, especially guys who can post. And if he posts again, dude, Arb is going to be hitting like a you-know-what in your face. And I don't see that happening in 2025 with the Rays taking on so many other contracts. And I think in 2025, Brandon Lowe, that will be his highest salary, if I'm not mistaken. That would be possibly, hopefully, somebody else's big Wander gets hit, I think, on 2025. So it's
Tyler Glasnow comes off the books, though. That's $25 million you theoretically have to play with.
Fair enough. If I were a betting man, I would go the Andy route. I would say that Shane McClanahan won't be with the team in 2025.
Okay.
Just because he's so good, he's expensive, and they're gonna just basically David Price him.
And that's possible. And that gets to the next part of the question as well. And here's the other thing, too. If you're really trying to collect the pennies to pay Shane McClanahan, there's always the option to trade Zach Eflin and some other guys as well. I guess Eflin, he could be part of the rotation in 2025. So maybe that's a scenario to play with as well. But yeah, if you're trading Shane McClanahan, it's just like with James Shields, just like with David Price, just like with Blake Snell. It's just like with Chris Archer. It's 1 for 3, 1 for 4. You're wanting 3-4 high quality prospects in return. And you hope it's more the lines of the Chris Archer deal where you get a Glasnow, a Baz, in a Meadows, as opposed to, I know it's a hitter, but the Evan Longoria deal where you get 4 or 5 guys back and not really any of them pans out for you anyway.
Or I know it's going to hit some Rays fans, the wrong way that I'm going to say this, but the Blake Snell deal. Again, Mejia's great. Patino has shown flashes. Blake Hunt's still in the minors. Cole Wilcox still in the minors. Actually, I think he's been hampered by a lot of different injuries lately. So, yeah, more on the Chris Archer deal. Now, Andy, I do want to say this. We can project all we want, and it's fun. But let's take this question to 2018, 2017, we would have all put Brent Honeywell there. Yeah. Every single race I would have put Brent Honeywell there. So I hope that not Taj, not Shane, not Mason Montgomery would go that route. Hopefully they're all super healthy and they all keep developing, because those three, if everything goes well, I think those three would have a spot in the rotation. So you're only left with 2 more spots. If you go the Kevin route, you have Shane there as a guy, and maybe Zach Eflin makes the cut there at $18 million. If you go my route, you trade Shane McClanahan. Maybe you keep Drew Rasmussen, because even though he's really good, he won't be as expensive as Shane McClanahan.
Right.
And you can go that route.
Yeah, I think just thinking about it more internally here, you take Glasnow's contract off the books, you trade Zach Eflin. That's a lot of money to play with for keeping Shane McClanahan. And I mean, offensively, I would fully expect Curtis Meade and Kyle Manzardo and Carson Williams to be in a 2025 and or 2026 lineup. In fact, Baseball America, they do a really fun projection where they project, 3-4 years ahead. And their latest projected 2026 lineup and rotation aligns like this. And the number 1 starter would be Shane Mack at 29 years old. Number 2 starter, Shane Boz. Number 3 starter, Rasmussen. Number 4 starter, Taj Bradley. Number 5 starter, Mason Montgomery. They have Luis Patino actually as the closer. And the lineup is, this is kind of crazy, but Francisco Mejia is the catcher. First base is Kyle Manzardo. Second base is Wander Franco. Third base is Isaac Paredes. Shortstop is Carson Williams. Left field is Randy Arozarena. Center field is Josh Lowe. And right field is Brandon Lowe. And the DH is Curtis Meade.
A lot to unpack there. I will only give you one insight because we need to hear about the last mailbag. I just
you disagree, I guess, with this?
Randy Arozarena in what year did you say? 2026?
Yeah, he'd be 31 years old.
That's not happening, guys. I don't even think Randy Arozarena makes it to 2025.
Yeah.
I just don't.
If he keeps not listening to the team and gets thrown out on the base paths, he might run his way out of town, quite frankly.
He's a very good player. He's a terrific player. But we already know he's a Super 2, and he's already getting paid $4 million. So next year, he's going to look around 7.5, most likely.
What's funny is in National Baseball land, he might, again, no disrespect to Randy, but he actually may be like the first Rays player that is overrated in National Baseball circles compared to everyone else who is underrated in baseball circles. Nobody focuses on Brandon Lowe or Yandy Diaz and some of these other guys, but because of what Randy Arozarena did in the postseason and because of some of the hysterics and his personality and his last name and just, some of the fun that he has, which is great for him. It's just, you had a lot of eyeballs on you over the course of that postseason there. And I think that continues to ring true for the baseball fandom out there.
I am not going to disagree. I'm not going to wholeheartedly agree, but it should say something that I'm not going to disagree with everything you've said. Yeah.
Okay. Fair. Still a terrific player for sure. Rather have him in the lineup than not in the lineup. All right. This last question we'll get to from Brian Stark.
What's up, Kevin? What's up, Ulises? This is Brian Stark from Tampa, Florida. I just wanted to let you guys know that I am a 2-time champion in my current fantasy league, and I can't wait to add a 3rd ring from this one. But before we get into all of that, I did have one question. With all the new rule changes coming up this year, I'm talking about the pitch clock, I'm talking about the new bases, the pickoff rule, and the limitation on the shifts. Which one do you think is going to impact the Rays more, either positively or negatively? Thanks. You guys are always a great listen.
All right. Thank you, Brian, also for saying where you're from and having the voice memo quick and to the point, 30 seconds. Love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Brian. I love the healthy trash talk. I welcome that. So that's also good of you, Brian. I I told you, hey, hold on to your tinfoil hats. We like to have fun on this show. Like, yes, we try to give you insight and the stats, but ultimately, we want you to have fun watching us or listening to us. So,
Yeah.
the conspiracy theory segments that we have done since 2019, they're fun. And so I did one last week, I believe. Grab your tinfoil, get it tight. How is a team that's so smart, like the front office and the Rays and guys that are so athletic, be so bad at base running? Like, how can they be this bad?
Mm-hmm.
And my conspiracy theory was they knew about the bigger bases coming, obviously. So they kind of wanted to get their players to get accustomed at how they want to run for the next year. Outs be damned on the bases in 2022, because in 2023, those outs hopefully become safe and maybe become runs. So that's my conspiracy theory. I know that I'm reaching, but again, it's just to have fun. So having said that, that's my conspiracy theory. That's my answer, Brian. I really think a team that's so athletic, that likes to run, that has guys like Randy Arozarena, Jose Siri, Taylor Walls, Vidal Brujan, Josh Lowe,
Manny Margot,
Wander Franco. I mean, Brandon Lowe is a really good base runner, and people do not give Brandon Lowe enough recognition for his base running skills. I think how many Manny Margot? I've basically given you a whole lineup of guys that are athletic and can steal a bag and can be really good base runners. I got to go with the bigger bases. I think those 3-4 inches should make a whole lot of difference for these guys.
I agree. And it's going to be needed. You're going to need guys to run and take the extra bags if you're not really going to have much of a power source or multiple power sources, unless they make some sort of major trade or two during the course of the season, or unless, a guy like Luke Raley, Josh Lowe, Curtis Mead pops off. So I agree with you that there. The other thing too, follow up on that conspiracy theory with another conspiracy theory. I think Taylor Wall's agent lobbied for these rules changes as far as limiting of shifts, because this should help guys that are defensive first stalwarts and defensive wizards to really take advantage. And, as was outlined in an article from Topkin several weeks ago, what the Rays theoretically could do is one inning, you have Taylor Walls play third base, and the next inning you could swap them and play second base. And I just think the range factor and, just having a lot more ground to cover and being able to handle those extra plays that could be coming your way, I think really makes Taylor Walls more valuable on this roster. Now, big picture, 30,000 foot view, I think the Rays are more equipped to handle these rules changes than other organizations because they are so innovative and they have a roster that is younger compared to most other big league clubs. This isn't the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Mets, where you have 8, 10, 12-year veterans who are stuck in their ways and are hesitant or don't want to change. So I think the Rays should be able to get more on board with these changes and more acclimated to these changes versus guys who are in their, early, mid to late 30s. So I think that's an advantage. And it's funny, I know I mentioned the shifts and, Taylor Walls maybe making more of a play there, but as far as limiting shifts, you would think maybe 10, 15 years ago, like, oh my gosh, that's going to devastate the Rays, but they really don't shift as much as you would think in comparison to other organizations. They're actually more in like bottom 5, bottom 10 in terms of overall total shifts. It's more the Dodgers and the Astros and the Blue Jays and the Mariners that are shifting. If you look on Savant, the Rays ranked 22nd in baseball in total shifts. So yeah, bottom third. So I don't think that should really be a big deal. And I think that you're going to see some creative things with the Rays too, where you can't do shifts like you did of yesteryear, but hey, you just have one of your outfielders play rover and shift them to the left or right side and kind of use that as a way to make up for your limited shifts.
And again, it just says 2 infielders with their feet on the dirt on either side of second base. You can be real close to second base, and that can kind of be your shift. And if you have an athletic guy like a Taylor Walls, those 2-3 feet that you're trying to edge out could be the difference. I'm not going to put past them to be innovative, even though their hands seem to be tied with these rules.
Right.
Not only the rover, I think that's a little bit, everybody has been talking about the rover, but what you just said about moving a Taylor Walls to third to second on particular innings, I think that's huge. And I think the Rays would try to do that. I think that would be very interesting. Depending on who comes to bat. Hey, I need Taylor Walls to be on the left side pull.
You have 3 lefty pull hitters coming up. Let's put Taylor Walls there.
Let's put Taylor Walls in there. It's going to be a challenge for a Taylor Walls to keep his accuracy and to keep his mental game of where I am playing, where the ball should go. If he is playing third, second, multiple times in each game. But I think he is really good defensively. And so that would be a cool thing to see. And I really do hope that comes to fruition because the Rays are pioneers. And, you talk about the shift, talk about the opener, talk about platoons. I think, trying to play with defensive, not substitutions, I guess, but defensive switches would be a really cool thing that the Rays could pioneer as well.
And the other advantage they have, I know we're running along here, but the fact that they're playing as many spring training games as they are at the Trop, they can kind of see how to play and how these rules changes are affecting the gameplay in the field play of the Trop versus you're playing in Port Charlotte and all these other spring training sites. It's hard to mirror what's going on at the Trop because it is a different animal, if you will, with the turf and everything involved with that. So I think that's, in a way, a built-in advantage of you almost have, a dozen extra home games to get yourself ready and to get those guys those younger players who don't have as much experience at the Trop, get them up to speed with the catwalk and the just everything that has to go on with the quirkiness that is. So, maybe it's one of those things where the Rays, they could have fixed Port Charlotte, but they're like, let's not push the envelope. We can just play our games at Tropicana Field for this year to help us out. So
every time you can get an edge on this, on any sport, on any facet of your life, if you can get an edge, get it. Get that it.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you for the questions. We'll have more coming up next week as well. In the meantime, thank you for making us your very first listen every day. Now make your second listen the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast. That is also free and available on all platforms. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we will talk to you tomorrow.